The daughter, for some reason, is so afraid that someone's going to come take her father away. She just goes and runs and hides in the closet.
No, I'm not worried at all. I rely on God, Allah.
But in terms of mental health, so there's an emerging theme called affective surveillance. So affect is like emotions, right? So there's like this emotional sort of experience. We're constantly in the state of like anxiety, which can be maybe also then just restated as uncertainty, right? Am I being seen? How are my statements going to be conveyed to my teacher, to my doctor? You know, the knocking on the door. You know, a mother was telling me, SubhanAllah, like, you know, when just knocking at the door, the daughter, for some reason, is so afraid that someone's going to come take her father away. She just goes and runs and hides in the closet. You know, I've had brothers and sisters, and it's been quite a weight on my shoulder, I'll be honest, but, you know, I've had brothers and sisters, many come to me right now, especially because of the PREVENT policy. And I'll just explain it very quickly. PREVENT is a statutory policy in all public settings in the UK, whereby staff, you know, teachers, doctors have to have their due diligence in referring, based on their gut feelings, people they suspect may be vulnerable to radicalization, i.e. terrorism in the future, right? So it's pre-crime. If they get the gut feeling that someone might potentially in the future become radicalized, be vulnerable to radicalization, they have a duty to refer them. So I won't go that far into like how that works, etc. It's just to explain that when brothers and sisters now become or are made aware of it. So a lot of people generally sometimes are still slowly being made aware that it's happening in mental health settings here. But when they do become made aware of it, I mean, where do they turn to now? You see, it's like this. You see, it's just all these compounding factors. So through Islamophobia, affective surveillance, you know, they're already anxious. They don't know who to speak to. Sometimes they're not so sure who they can trust. Okay. Now let's pretend there's other things going on in their lives. There's stress. You know, things are bringing them down. Now, ideally, they need to speak with someone. They're unsure potentially if they can go to random masjids because, again, if certain masajid of counter-extremism discourse has become normalized, they don't feel that's a safe space. Now they also don't feel like they can go to a regular mental health setting because they know that duty exists there. So I get brothers and sisters who are calling me who are like, look, you know, not because they have anything to hide. They're just so afraid that their general vulnerability, and I write about this because eventually what happens, because it's a racist policy. So Muslims who are vulnerable, you know, anyone who sort of like, you know, has issues, they're like, they're going to think I'm vulnerable to becoming a terrorist in the future, right? And they're not going to go to a public setting to talk about it. And I think we as Muslims, or at least here in the UK especially, Muslim mental health professionals, you know, I get sometimes people come to me, you know, even a non-Muslim might come to me and want to speak with me just because I've been explicitly political. That, you know, I make it explicit that like I'm against these policies, you know, and they would then admit they don't feel safe enough to go speak to a Muslim about it. Because if that Muslim hasn't made their position clear, maybe that Muslim psychiatrist is going to make a PREVENT referral against them. You see what I mean? And this is now things, it becomes so insidious because when you're left then with, you don't know where to turn or who to trust, you're basically creating all these fractures. I mean, that's what all these surveillance policies, that's their ultimate impact, is all these fractures in ways that are ultimately managed by the state, rather than a cohesive, you know, sense of community that's based on trust. Right? These are things that are being broken through these policies.
Do I feel that the New York police are providing enough protection, or do I have to have protection of my own? I look for protection from Allah.